Well, since some of my earlier front porch casual camera discussions were somewhat popular, I thought I'd do a new one for a new camera I got, which is the beautiful little Rollei B35. This was kind of their budget model in their 35 range of cameras. This one really, what makes it more budget is instead of having a Tessar or a Sonar lens, it has a Triator lens, which lens snobs consider to be substandard for a Zeiss lens. But after running 3 rolls of film through the camera, I can say when this is stopped down, it really can go head to head with anything. If you're looking to shoot a lens wide open, this probably isn't the lens for you. But since this camera doesn't have a rangefinder and isn't an SLR, I personally wouldn't be using it for wide aperture, shallow depth of field. The way I use it, since it would be a guess focus system where you look at a subject and you say, yeah, that's about 15 feet, and then you dial that in for your focus. And if the lens is stopped down, everything's going to be crisp within a pretty large region. In reality, more than 80% of what I shoot, I just leave it at 20 feet, and it gets everything roughly from 10 feet to infinity is going to look good. So leave it there, pull it out of your pocket, you're ready to shoot. It has a built-in selenium meter. I think it's basically a smaller version of a Gaussian pilot meter, which I never thought were that good. And this is 50 years old, so it might be close to half a stop off, but I've just adjusted the ASA and it's usable. I guess since I use so many mechanical cameras without any light meter, most of my shootings I just start with Sunny 16 and adjust as needed. So I haven't used the meter much, but it is nice that it is at least there. So as the budget model, you know, the controls have been kind of compressed. They're all around the lens. And so at the top you have your focus, behind that you have your apertures. The only slight complaint I can have about the camera is the limited shutter speeds are kind of at the very back, and they're a little bit fiddly to change. So, but the thing is the camera's tiny, and so once you stow the lens, you know, it fits into almost any pocket. Again, comparing this to the higher end 35T or 35S, this is also about 70 grams lighter, which maybe doesn't seem like that much, but I know when I've shot the other versions of this camera, you know, that extra 70 grams, if you put it into like a loose pocket of shorts, you know, it's banging against your legs. So if you're walking around all day, it gets a little bit annoying, even though the camera is physically about the same size. So that's one thing that drew me to getting the B35. Also, I lucked out. I paid top dollar, about $140 for this, but I could see on eBay that everything, the camera's mint. I doubt it's had more than 2 or 3 rolls of film through it before I put film in it. But it's also the made in Germany one, and that makes it more sought after. So, and it came with the original case and the original collectible made in Germany lens cap. One thing I did change, it came with the original wrist strap, which is really thick, so it's really hard to get in and out of this when you're putting it in and out of the case. And in my pocket, I just want it in my pocket, not the case, and dealing with opening and closing that. So I guess people have questioned why, I'm really drawn to pocket cameras. And I guess during my first formal photography class, the professor stood up and he made the comment that if you took the class seriously, that just that one class would change the way you look at things pretty much for the rest of your life. And as a photographer, I take that to heart. If I'm just walking around not thinking I'm going to be shooting photos, if I just see the light hitting a wall at a certain angle that's interesting, I look at it, study it, and try to figure out how I can use that to create an interesting photo. So a lot of times you're not out looking for photos, but if one photo presents itself, if it hadn't been hard to carry a camera, then it's worthwhile. And a camera like this fits the bill. The other thing is there are small pocket point and shoot cameras, but very few of them, at least as modern as the Rolleis, are purely mechanical and manual. So if you enjoy having complete control over everything, a camera like this, gives you something that's not available in a lot of other cameras. And it's a little bit quirky, which I always kind of like things like that. So the wind lever is basically on the wrong side. The hot shoe for the flash is on the bottom. So if you're going to put a flash unit, you have to hold the camera upside down and then use the shutter release on the bottom. Let's see. And it has, like a lot of German cameras, it has, interlocks of hell, which if you don't know what you're doing, puts people in a position where, they can ruin the cameras. I know I ordered a B35 offline last year, and it was obvious somebody tried to force the lens in when it wasn't ready. So, basically, when you're going to shoot the camera, it's always going to be cocked. So, take off the fiddly little lens cap, pull out the lens and turn it till you hear it clicks. You can take a shot, but then you have to wind it before you're able to push the release and then unlatch the lens and put it back in. If you try forcing it, there's the mechanism between the shutter release and the shutter on the lens barrel can get bent. You can mess the camera up. So, but anyway, it's just a gorgeous little camera. If the weight and the price are of no concern, you can look at the one with the Tessar lens or the Sonar lens. As I said, I've shot those in the past. Since I shoot everything stop down, I didn't notice a huge increase in image quality, but I'm sure at wider apertures you would. But since I bought this basically for either good light or to use on a tripod with time exposures, I'm not going to be shooting this wide open. So I guess in rough terms, a Tessar version would be about 2 times as much in price as this, and the Sonar about 3 times. But this is a very simple, usable camera. I love it. I think it's beautiful. They have a lot of enthusiasts, especially for the Tessar and Sonar versions. But when you look at how small they are, you know, and how finely they were made, you know, some people, you know, swear, oh, you need to get a German model. I think in 1971, to cut costs, they tried having them manufactured in Singapore, but to the same standards. The only thing I've read online was that when they went to Singapore, a couple of the gears were changed out from being brass to plastic. And those gears may fail. I'm not sure. I haven't touched this. I haven't looked at what's inside. Hopefully that never happens, but as you can see, you know, top is nice and clean. It has a simple light meter there, so set your ASA. It's not coupled, but you change the shutter speed and then see what aperture is required for that. But I really haven't used that. Almost everything I shoot Sunny 16, so I leave the focus at 20 feet, and since I shoot 100 speed film, I put the aperture at f11 and the shutter speed at 1/250th. It takes away really any chance of camera shake. It gets me plenty of depth of field, and I don't think diffraction really starts kicking in at f11. So every time I shoot it, I put it back in that configuration, pull it out of my pocket, you know. Has a nice bright line in the viewfinder, and I'm ready to compose. And so yeah, it's one of the Rolleis to consider, and I'm really excited that I finally have one that's working in every way. And so if you follow me online, Instagram or on Facebook, you know, you'll see I've already posted quite a few examples from this specific camera, and it's turning into one of my favorites. And as small and potentially limiting as it is, I can't see the results that I'm getting any worse than my top Nikon or Leica cameras. So yeah, that's it. Rollei B35. I guess the only thing I might say is, since I'm not that thrilled with the meter and I'm used to not having one, if I found going back, had I found one that was advertised with a bad meter and knowing that it's uncoupled and unneeded, if I got one for half the price with the bad meter, I'd probably go for that as a user camera. As it is, this thing's pristine. There's no ding on any corners. And again, if you're familiar with these cameras, all the top metal surfaces are very thin metal. So it only takes a minor bump and it will put dents in them. And most of these cameras that you see will have a dent in them. So, but this one's perfect, so I have to treat it with kid gloves and just love on it.